Hey guys, come on in. I'm doing research as usual. It helps if I know what I'm talking about before I do all this talking. And I am on a very interesting subject tonight, let me tell you. I started wearing my cowboy hat so I would look more, get into the mood, you know. We're doing horses, all right? Love horses, a noble animal. I always try to do a little research so it sounds like I know what I'm talking about. And my long-suffering wife goes on the computer and gets stuff, and I went to my art library, which is fun. I've been building an art library for 30 years. And I got all my books and everything, and I hope I can do a good job because this is a subject that deserves my very best. Now, last week, for those of you that, my loyal fans, both of you, that tune in, we, of course, did horses. This week, this show, we did the horse pot. This week, the show is called Horse Pot 2. I try to get a little bit cute, you know, I do the lettering and stuff, and when I was doing the sign, I couldn't help but put a couple of horseshoes there when I wrote out the word horse pot. As usual, I always go 1, 2, 3, because when I'm dealing with creative people, they are visual thinkers, and because you can imagine things and visualize them, they quite often jump ahead of what's going on. And the bad joke is they keep wanting to put the candles on the cake before it goes in the oven because they're emotionally and visually ahead of where you are physically and actually. So I try to do things 1, 2, 3. Now, in this situation, we have a very large pot over here that we made last week, and it is roughly about this shape, all right? So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to score and slip the pot surface so that the new clay will stick. And I have to, unlike a Southern Baptist preacher, I have to practice what I preach. So if I forget some of my own teachings and I forget to score and slip, then the sculpture will literally fall right off the pot because they dry at a different rate, and that slip is like putting mortar between bricks. So we're going to score up the pot really good, and then we'll take a small amount of clay, and we're probably going to look kind of like a sausage, if you will. And we're going to put it about here. There's the chest area. And there is the buttocks area. All right. The back's a little bit swayed. It's flat here. This is actually called the belly. And then we'll do the neck. All right. Then we'll do the head. There's the nozzle. And if I do this right, a little bit short there, we'll start out with the major body shape. I'm not so concerned about eyes and ears. They'll be the detail on number 3, as will the tail. Now the trickiest thing is going, of course, to be put the forelegs on there. And we're going to have to, and I've gotten the books laying out here in front of me, and we'll kind of have to decide what pose I want to put the horse in. Now, there are over 300, hold up 5 fingers, right? There are 300 different distinct breeds of horses. I'm looking at the pictures, and they are just beautiful animals. I hope that I do them justice. And they come in a variety of body styles and shapes depending on what the horse was bred to do. They've been breeding horses. Matter of fact, we've domesticated horses between 3,000 and 4,000 years ago, and man has been riding horses for 5,000 years. I've looked at these bodies, and I've looked at the movement, and I really like the Cayuse Indian pony, which is a breed that came out of northwest Canada, and the Cayuse Indians bred it for their need. It's kind of rare now, unlike some other horse breeds that are really doing well. As a matter of fact, I read this, worthless trivia, but guess what nation in the world has the most horses? Okay, I'm waiting, all right, wrong. China, all right, then Mexico, then Brazil, and the United States is like 4th, all right? So, thought that was interesting. China has more horses than we do. Got that here. Thought it was interesting. I also, in doing research, and a lot of young artists are very impetuous, nice word, and they want to just jump in there, jump in the deep end and start splashing, and that's one way to learn how to swim. I, on the other hand, have done my research, and I've looked at the skeletal system and the muscular system, and I'm going to try to do this correctly. Now, This is a bad joke, but I like it. I like bad jokes, as you know. You cannot tell a lie unless you know the truth. It'd be an accident. You cannot abstract something unless you know what it really looks like. So when you take artistic liberties with something, you have to start somewhere to kind of liberate it. So I need to start out in reality, and a lot of my artist friends, they think reality was a county in North Dakota. They've never been there. All right, I've done a little reality. Okay, I've got my pictures and I've got my notes and everything. I think the Syrians get credit for the first people to come up with the concept of the metal stirrup, which allowed you to be on the horse's back, i.e. a stirrup was wood at the time. And before that, they had used horses, domesticated them and everything, but they had trouble riding them, trying to stay on it, you know, without the saddle. And the Syrians figured that out. They were a warlike people. Okay, ta-da. All right, that's my water, which we will need. Now, as I told you, the first thing we're going to do is we're going to score the areas where we're going to put sculpture. Now, when I started sculpting on this thing, I had to make several decisions. This particular pot has a wide middle. So I can put little horses running across the top. Or I'm thinking out loud. Ooh, who said that? Oh, it's me. Okay. I'm thinking out loud. I could put just the horse's head like Paladin. I could put a herd of horses and I could carve them in like a frieze on a Greek building. Or I could sculpt them in high relief where we sculpted the bodies and then put them on. Well, this is a teaching situation, so I want to teach you guys some tricks. So I'm going to opt to sculpt and put them on here. Now, traditionally, on the pot I have just to my left, which is kind of a finished project, I only have 2 horses running side by side, and I would have usually done 3. People are more visually comfortable, that's a neat word, visually comfortable with 3 because of like a 3-legged stool. They're not comfortable seeing a 2-legged stool. And I read in a psychology book that was because of the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Ghost, and we people are comfortable with that concept. I am. All right, now I've scored, and now I have put my slip on, or actually water, and the water is going to get down into those scratch marks and create a moisture and kind of get like quicksand, if you will. Now, I don't know, can you believe I don't know? I don't know how good you're going to be able to see this because I'm going to be working relatively small. And what I'd like to do would keep the entire horse body up here, it's just running around like a frieze on a building, as opposed to his legs going past his match, because that will put a bend in his leg. Unless I do like I did on the other pot and I built that up down there, or either I cut this a little flatter. I'm making my mind what I want to do. I've decided to have the horses around the top. Now, a lot of people, when I'm teaching in various schools on the Artist in Residence program, or when they're taking lessons at my studio in good old historic downtown Matthews, they come in, they're a little bit reluctant, some are, and they say, Joe, I don't have a lot of talent. And I go, you're lying. You do have talent. You have a lot of it. People mistakenly think that talent is technical training, all right? Suppose you had the idea to write the great American novel, a good guy and a bad guy and a damsel in distress, and you had a totally original idea, right? But you couldn't spell, dyslexic, something. That doesn't take away from your talent of your original idea. There's a lot of people that can work for minimum wage that can spell. You could dictate your idea to them. So your talent was your originality and your creativity. Their technical skill was they could punch the buttons on the computer or they could write. So you can teach people technical skills, you can't teach them talent. Talent God gave you. My job as a teacher is to help you get that talent out, like the person you dictated the novel to. I'm going to show you how to use some tools and materials to help your talent come out. Now you would decide to do yours differently than me. You might have a herd of horses. You may have them like carousel horses going up and down. You may have one large horse in the middle and small horses around it to set up some quarter perspective. Everybody would have a different idea. You'd have them standing still. You'd have them galloping. All right. We all have different. So when I have a bunch of students working on the similar project, everybody does theirs very, very differently. Now the first thing I'm going to do is, this is my block of clay. It's in real good condition. I got a feel for it. I'm going to cut some clay off here using my wire cutter. And as long as I leave the bag wrapped up, the clay will stay workable for months and months and months. But if I leave it unwrapped, it begins to dry. Now, I'm doing a little bit of housekeeping here, and I'm pulling some of the gravel and things off the table because this is going to be so small compared to what I'm usually doing. A small piece of dry gravel would get in that joint of the horse's leg and cause me a problem. Now, like I drew on the board a few minutes ago, I'm going to start out with the major torso or trunk of the body. Horses' heights are measured in hands, all right? And it goes to the bottom of the neck and where the shoulders meet, called the withers. And the neck may move up and down, so you can't use the neck or the head, which could be turning and not be a standard height. So they use the highest place on the shoulder where the neck comes to it, and that's called the wither. And then you measure the number of hands, and the hands roughly about 4 inches. And so 14 hands is where you tell the difference between a horse and a pony. Anything under 14 hands is a pony. Anything over is a horse. Okay, I learned some stuff. Pass it on. Okay, horse's measurements, if he was 14 hands plus 2 inches, his measurement would be 14.2. I'm full of it. Okay. The smallest breed of horses is the Fetlock. Fetlock. All right. Named after the family in Argentina that developed it. And these bad guys are like 30 inches tall, about the size of an average dog. All right, it's a little miniature breed of horse. They're very expensive, by the way. Okay, here we go. Now, here is from the chest to the buttocks, all right? Now, this is 360 degrees round, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to throw it down on the table so it'll be flat on the back side and be easier to adhere to the curvature of the pot. So I'm going to throw it down, give a loud thumping sound, don't let me scare you. All right. Now it's flat on the back side and rounded here. Complaining I had this new toolbox that I'm not quite familiar with. So I'm getting used to it. It's about right. I'm going to use the angle of the stick, and there is the south end of the northbound horse, and here is the front. Horse has 205 bones, where we're 206. Has a lot of the very same bones by the same names. All right, it doesn't have a collarbone, which I thought was interesting. You know, the collarbone is the chop karate, the easiest bone in the body to break. Anybody played sports a while, you broke your collarbone. Horses don't have one. They got a whole bunch of muscles there. That's one place they're different. All right, I'm scoring and slipping the backside, and while I was boring you to death with all that information, I was letting the water dry in there. Okay, I'll bring it over here. I said I wanted to keep those legs up above, and of course, I've changed my mind. All right. Made this bigger than I wanted to. All right. Back's got a small sway in it. But this is called the belly, just like on a human. It's called the shoulder, like a human. That's the buttocks. In Europe, they call it the bum, B-U-M. I always thought that was cool. Okay. Now, one thing I meant to tell the guys last week, if y'all were here, I'm going to tell you this week. When we made those two pots, there's the top of this pot, that was got a bottom in it, And of course, eventually we're going to cut out this hole so the pot can be hollow and you can put greenery in it or tools in it or whatever you're going to use the pot for. I'm leaving the top in there now because when I work this, the top is helping to hold the pot rigid, but if I were to take this off, it's like taking a side off a square. It would hold less pressure. All right, so I've done that intentionally, okay? I'm pretty pleased with that. This is the withers right here, so now I'm going to make the upper head and neck. Now, I used the term last week a lot about getting a feel for it, and when I'm teaching young students, or grown-ups that are young students, you have to get a certain feel for things. It sounds like a very scientific term, but it is. And it's like fishing. You know, when you feel the fish tugging on it, you've got to know the right moment to set that hook. And it takes some practice and experience to learn that. The same way when you're deep sea fishing and you feel the flow of the current or the ocean pulling on your line. And you have to be able to tell the difference when it's just a current or the wind pulling or when it's an actual fish nibbling. And that might be a hard thing to put into words. So you kind of like getting the feel of balance on a bicycle. It's hard to tell somebody when you're off balance because when you fall over, that's a clue. And you finally kind of learn from getting a feel for it. I know it sounds like I'm just spreading it on a little bit thick, but that's what it amounts to. And this is very tactile. And this is why it's such good therapy. Look what it's doing for me. So you get to imagine something, and then you get to envision it, and then you get to make it come forward. Like a little magic, right? So it's really good therapy. A lot of people have ideas all the time, but they never bring them to fruition. I love that word, fruition. So this teaches you, and a lot of people get frustrated because they have so many ideas, but they're never able to act upon their ideas, and they think it's the same thing as thinking about something is the same thing as doing it. Not true. You know, thinking about food is not the same thing as eating. There's actually a Spanish proverb that says, if I get it correctly, talking of bullfighting is not the same as fighting a bull. So, all right, talking about a bullfight is not the same thing as fighting a bull. All right, here comes the neck. Again, before, remember, it's 360 degrees. I'm going to throw it down. I'm going to score and slip it. Remember, people all know the trick about you're not supposed to come up behind a horse. That's because horses' eyes on the outside of their head, right? They're prey animals. And they can see 340 degrees. They can see everywhere around them except right dead center and back. That's why when you come up behind a horse, you're out of his vision, and it makes him nervous. Now, I don't know how good at the angles we have here. This is looking about right here. And I'm connecting the neck to the head, bringing that out. All right? Okay. Not bad, not bad. And I said I would do the detail such as the mane and ears and eyes later, but I might go ahead and do it a little bit now to help you guys visualize this. There's this trick that they would do, visual recognition. They'll show you an ink blot, intentionally, not the Rorschach test, but done intentionally, that there's actually something there, and some people can see it quicker than others. All right, now I'm going to go ahead and, because we're so tight on time, I'm going to let y'all see that. Now, I could add the ear on, but if I can pull it out of the mass, I'm going to be better off. Now, they can turn the ears 180 degrees, you know, and the angle their ear is tells you a lot about whether they're being alert or whether they're relaxed, and whatever the case might be. I've done that one a little bit before. That came out pretty darn quick. This is called the jugular line here, just like it is on a human. And there's the windpipe, and there's the shoulder blade. All right, this is called the chest. I'll cut that line back here. This is called the dock, where the tail comes off. Because we are so close on time, I wish you guys could stay longer. I'm going to go ahead, which I wouldn't traditionally do, and I'm going to put the tail on so you can help you with this visual image for those of you that flunked your Rorschach test. I had a friend that stayed up all night because he was going to take a urine test, and he failed it anyway. Okay, there we go. That might help you a little bit to... all right. I took an IQ test, but it came back negative. Okay, that's called the dock. That's the buttocks there, rump. Now we're coming with the legs. Traditionally, you veterans that have seen me do legs before, whenever possible, I make at least 2 at the same time, the old mustache trick. That way I know that they are exactly the same. Now I'm rolling out here. I've got a relatively clean area. I'm going to pick up any trash or gravel. And I'm making it fat in the middle. I think fat is not a politically correct word anymore. Okay? I am not politically correct. Fat in the middle, skinny on both ends. Turn it down like the big mustache. Okay, looking pretty good. And now I am going to trim it. Not too shabby. So I have 2 about the same size. All right, good enough. All right, I'm checking my reference. I'm using the Cayuse. That rear leg does this. All right, I've checked it. All right, here I go. Now this is relatively simple if I do it right. I'm going to do the Fetlock by making it skinny here. All right. The bottom part there is called the Pastern, showing off my education. The lower half of the horse's leg doesn't have any muscles in it. Isn't that neat? Okay. And then there's the hock. Not bad. And here, this part here is called the knee and that the elbow. Now, one leg is behind the other. That's about right. So I'm pushing up here. Let me check my book. That knee comes out past the rump. Okay. There we go. Hey, not bad. Now, I want to lift that leg out, so I'm going to cheat. I do that sometimes. And I'm going to put this foliage down here, like I did with my other pink horse, to lift that leg out. And that's about right. Not too terribly wrong. There's the angle, this Pastern, the hock. Looking about right. Now, I know this leg's exactly the same size, because remember it's half the mustache. Here I go again. Fetlock. And I found out that a horse's hoof is made out of the very same stuff as our human fingernails. Isn't that cool? Horse has fingernails. When a horse is running, he's actually running on his tippy toes. All right, there we go. And there is the hock. And there's the knee. And I'm pressing down here so that it'll be flat. I'm going to remember to score and slip. And this leg is slightly out, so I need to get something to bring it out. There is some greenery to bring it out with. So you don't know you're running backwards. And I bend it at the lock. That's the Pastern. Hey, not bad. Oh, this thing, strange enough, it's called the elbow up here. Knee down below, the elbow up there. The horse's chest is called the barrel. A lot of the same words that apply to human. That's not so bad. There's a little bit of the muscle. That is not too bad at all. There was a neat story that one of the first uses of a motion picture was to photograph a quarter horse and see when he was running if there was any point that all 4 hooves were off the ground. Well, the human eye couldn't catch it. So they figured out that they would use a motion picture camera, and then this is back Thomas Edison era here, 1909 I think it was, and then they would play it back and they could see if there was any point in the stride of a professional thoroughbred that all 4 of his hooves were off the ground. And there was a great amount of money wagered on it by all these men that had grown up with horses, and of course the camera doesn't lie. Except in my case, I am a lot younger and taller than my pictures show on the, I've seen some of my TV tapes, and I'm a lot younger than that guy you're watching on TV, and better looking too. Okay, but you know, the camera lies. Okay. I've done the same trick as before. I did the mustache. I have two the same size. I'm checking my reference. The leg on the outside is straight back in his gallop, and then the other one is bent. So I do this little trick to make the hoof round. I roll it. Then I separate the fetlock, that little area between the where the horse's hoof and hair come together is called the pastern. Neat word. Come up, all right. The lower leg is skinnier. I'm just squeezing, not too shabby. A little bit of a bend. It comes off. Oh, nice leg, nice leg. Horses are three types: warm-blooded, which is your race horses; cold-blooded, which are your plow horses; and then hot-blooded, cold-blooded, and warm-blooded are the three major types, which is the same way that when I was in high school we used to judge cheerleaders, but I don't think that was a scientific so much. But it is with horses. They're actually called hot-blooded, warm-blooded, cold-blooded. The warm-blooded is a mixture of the two previous breeds. There's only two truly wild or feral horses still left. One of them, oddly enough, is Mongolia. Mongolians are big, big, big horse people, as you know. There's some neat stories if y'all know about the Mongol army, Genghis Khan, and all that. They would put meat between their saddle and the horse's back, and they'd ride all day, and that was how they tenderized the meat, and then they ate the raw meat. That's a bit much. They still, some cultures still do eat horse meat. It's not the American culture as a general rule. All right, there's it. I got one more leg to go, and I'm pushing the clock again. So I'm going to try to get that last leg really quick. We don't want a three-legged horse, okay? I had a group of farmers in my old community that were trying to breed chickens, and they knew that the drumsticks were the favorite part, and they crossbred different animals, and they finally came up with a three-legged chicken. Amazing. And they had a whole herd of them and everything. And some friends came by, and they were just amazing animals, three-legged chickens. And the guy said, well, do the legs taste good? And the guy says, I don't know, we can't catch one. All right, here we go. Now here's the other leg. Told you that bad joke to stall for time while I fix the leg. I'm not used to people with patience. All right, this leg was straight. I'm sorry, I did the back leg is supposed to be straight on his gait. That one is straight, and the front leg was the one bent. All right, I wouldn't want to make a mistake with all of you people looking. All right, because somebody will write in and tell me, Joe, you big dummy, you got those legs backwards. There is a particular gait. There are 4 gaits to horses. The first gait, now remember, only runs 4 miles an hour. All right, guys, we get it? A little close up here? All right, see you next time.